Greetings, cultivators worldwide. Jordan River here, back with more GrowCast, like humic acid for your ears. Today we have Brandon Rust back on the line. It's a great episode. We talk about the breeding work that he's been doing. We talk about old school strains. We talk about humic fertilizers and, of course, the craziness that's going on in Oklahoma. Brandon's fired up for this one. I know you guys are going to love this episode, but before we jump into it, shout out to AC Infinity, baby. ACinfinity.com. Code GrowCast15 to get your savings and keep the lights on here at GrowCast. We appreciate your support, and we love AC Infinity. They make the best grow tents around, extra thick poles. They've got nice, durable, thick siding. Now they have the new side ports. People have been asking for those, and AC Infinity, listen. Plus, they've got everything else you need to grow. They've got lights and pots and fans, and their oscillating fans, the Cloud Ray system. Check out their humidifiers, the Cloud Forge. How nice is your humidifier? Maybe it's time to replace that. The Cloud Rays are my favorite oscillators on the market, and of course, their Cloud Line series, what they got it all started with. All those years ago when we were partners with AC Infinity, all they made were those inline fans, and they're the best in the game. So shout out to the entire AC Infinity suite. They've got everything you need to get growing, from fans to tents to lights. Code GrowCast15 works at acinfinity.com. You support us and you're getting some badass durable grow gear while you're doing it. So thank you to all you listeners using code GrowCast15, and thank you to AC Infinity. All right, let's get into it with Brandon. Thank you for listening and enjoy the show. Hello, podcast listeners who are now listening to GrowCast. I'm your host, Jordan River, and I want to thank you for tuning in again today. Before we get started, as always, I urge you to share this show. Share this show. Tell someone about GrowCast. Turn someone on to growing. It's how you can help us out on our mission of overgrow. And check out everything we're doing at growcastpodcast.com. There you'll find the seeds, the events, the classes, the membership. Special thank you to all the members who make this community possible. I could not do this without you. Today, we've got a return guest, good friend of the show. He's busy at work with Bokashi Earthworks, doing breeding stuff, activism work out in Oklahoma, all sorts of interesting business we're going to discuss today. Brandon Rust from Bokashi Earthworks is back on the line. What's up, Brandon? How are you doing?
What is going on, Jordan? What's going on to all your listeners? Thanks for having me back on. It's always a pleasure to catch up with old friends.
Yeah, buddy. Well, you're back there in Oklahoma, man. I made a little bit of an escape. I know it's been dumping snow back there, which presents challenges, but growers are having much worse challenges than just snowfall right now in Oklahoma. Do you want to talk a little bit about pardon my language, but about the fuckery that's been going on as far as really sticking it to these cannabis businesses and putting them out of business very, very corruptly?
So fuckery is always afoot when it comes to government on any level, whether it's local, state, or federal, national. It seems that the goal is always control. I just don't like the way that OMMA, which is the organization that oversees licensing in Oklahoma, has actively started a war to take out cannabis businesses. It's very unfortunate, and a lot of people are losing their jobs, they're losing their life savings, they're losing their farms. And there's a lot of different issues. So overtax and overregulation, more implementation of things that need to be done. One of them was a $50,000 bond.
Jeez.
So if you don't get a $50,000 insurance bond, you're not allowed to operate. And here's the thing. When we're talking about small businesses, a lot of these people are operating with razor thin margins. These are like family owned and operated. The people who are, cultivating the weed are pounding pavement and selling the weed, and they're running these businesses entirely themselves. And so just small increases in fines and revenues and this and that could be potentially the straw that breaks the proverbial camel's back.
Right.
And in this situation, there's that bond, but also there's something called a certificate of compliance, right? Which you are able to start up a business in Oklahoma, and they don't enforce a certificate of compliance. There's only 4 counties that do that in the whole state. And it's because Oklahoma City, Tulsa, and then these other 2, they're everywhere else is rural, right? And so coding and zoning offices don't exist. And a good example for this is if I was to buy a piece of property out in the country and I wanted to build, a foundation and put a house up, I don't need to go pull permits. I don't need to go get, in fact, I couldn't pull permits because there's no coding enforcement zoning offices in those rural areas.
Right. It's all unincorporated Oklahoma.
And essentially, people have businesses, whether it's a restaurant or a gas station, a veterinary clinic, people are running and operating legal businesses in the state. And so what's happened is, there's thousands and thousands of businesses that are operating in areas of the state that aren't, populated like Oklahoma City and Tulsa. It's not like that. Right. So these people are trying to become compliant for the regulations that they're saying, hey, everybody now has to have a COO, but they know that they can't get one or it's going to be extremely difficult because the legislators know that those offices don't exist. And so they take these different strategic ways that they can eliminate people out of the playing field,
I've never seen anything like this, Brandon.
Look, it's always in the guise of safety, right? Safety this,
right.
We need that. And here's the thing. Okay, so people are trying to get these COOs, but they can't. And so it falls on the state fire marshal. And there's 2 state fire marshals for the whole state, right? And so the OMMA is saying, okay, now it's their responsibility. Here you go. You guys deal with it. They have the state fire marshal. They can inspect each probably about 3 or 4 businesses a day, right? And that's not talking about cannabis businesses. These are businesses that are, whether they're restaurants or whatever it is, right? And so these state fire marshals who are normally operating, industrial areas and rural areas in the cities and stuff are now having to go out to the countryside to go inspect all these different things, these different styles of grow. Some of them shouldn't even have to have COO because they're fucking greenhouses that are literally that they're greenhouses. People are growing in fucking greenhouses, no fucking lights, nothing. And they're needing a certificate of occupancy, which they can never get, not in a fucking building.
That's crazy, dude. And they're in this part in Oklahoma that doesn't even have an office to register it.
Yeah. And so the state fire marshal is like, I don't know what to do in this situation. So they're not approving people. And not only that, we're talking about each fire marshal can do 2,200 businesses in 1 year. There's over 6,000 cannabis businesses.
Yeah.
And we're not talking I'm not saying they can do 2,200 cannabis businesses. That's just all of the businesses in the state combined.
Yeah, that's right. That's crazy.
The whole thing is a fucking shit show. Everybody's fucking pissed off. And then they sent out a letter that said, basically, if you're not in compliance, you have 30 days to file a fucking court notice to file, whatever, or we're pulling your license and basically fuck.
It's the craziest thing I've ever seen, Brandon. I've seen other states want to claw back their cannabis programs, right? We heard about it in Montana. We've seen it in other counties, for instance, in California, but I've never seen this. This is legal checkmate to put, like you said, mom and pop businesses out of business, to bankrupt these families.
Here's the thing, dude. People are getting fucking pissed. If I can rally people, if I can get people in this building and fucking get them fucking angry enough to fucking take action, it's our fucking civic responsibility to be up at these fucking look, it fucking sucks because you're talking to a multiple convicted felon and I can't even fucking vote. I shouldn't be the one fucking leading the fucking charge. I don't even have any fucking voting rights. Okay. Every fucking American should be doing their civic fucking duty, which means having a firearm, practicing firearm safety, learning how to fucking shoot, doing your civic duties to hold fucking legislators responsible, to hold the fucking ballot counters holdable. If we're all in on this, all 100%, we have to be fucking active. That's the thing. They're not teaching civics in schools anymore. So nobody's fucking getting civically involved.
It's
right.
True.
And I don't get me wrong, I fucking hate politics, but it's not really that I hate politics. I just hate the type of people that come into politics because that the only reason that they're there is to try to manipulate the system in their own advantage you look at 9 times out of 10, they're not there to help fucking people.
It's true.
They're help them fucking selves.
I completely agree, Brandon. And you're right. It falls onto someone who's willing to take action, and there's never been a harder time to get people interested.
Yeah.
Everybody's distracted with their phones. Nobody gives a fuck. It's absolutely true. And you have to try to make an impact on this local level, because otherwise it's completely unfair. My jaw drops when you tell me this story. It's like, they will take a mile. They don't give a flying crap. They will put the entire industry out of business. They don't care whose mom and pop businesses they shut down. Like, someone has to stand up and do something, because these people are essentially ruthless.
Yeah. So we're fucking getting fed up, man. And it's like, what we need is fucking tens of thousands of people to show up and be like, oh shit, these motherfuckers are serious. You know?
Yeah. I mean, if you don't have lobbying power, the only other power you really have is power of the people, right? Power of, what's the word I'm looking for? You know, basically during the Vietnam War, this became a big deal, which is basically the power of the opinion of the people. Where can people rally behind you, Brandon? Do you recommend they just follow your Instagram? I do see you putting out like PSAs and emergency meetings on there. Is that the best place to stay up to date?
I mean, look, you can come and show up to these meetings. I'm just facilitating a place. That's all I'm doing, for people to come out and voice their opinions, and maybe, you know, the lawyers that are going to show up and the people that are better at this shit. But here's my fucking thing. I don't understand how any of this is lawful. I can understand the legal side of it, but legal and constitutional law, like, we're operating under a statutory jurisdiction, and I don't fucking understand how this works. I wish somebody would explain it to me. Because under the Constitution, we have common law, maritime admiralty, and equity law. And we're operating in some weird fucking, like, maritime equity that has criminal fucking penalties for contracts that have never been fucking signed.
Right.
Like, I could go to fucking jail for, let me give you an example. I could go to jail for, let's say, not having a fucking license.
Yeah.
Right? But there's no fucking crime, and I don't have a fucking contract with the state.
How can you be punished for violating a contract that you were never a party to? And in fact, that they themselves had different conditions when you started your business. They switched up the conditions, right? You never agreed to that contract, yet you're beholden to it. It's crazy, dude. It's guilty until proven innocent, honestly. That's how they're treating the cannabis industry right now.
I just don't know how any of our fucking legal system is operating. I think the whole statutory thing is unconstitutional. I just don't get it, because I thought we were supposed to operate under common law, and common law is like, there has to be a victim to be a crime, right? If there's no victim, or there's no one being harmed, then how can someone be prosecuted for anything, for a wrongdoing? Because logically, a wrongdoing would have to intend that there's some type of victim, right?
Yep. 100%. This has just been a bait and switch. And like I said, I've never seen anything like this, Brandon. Like, people have clawed back programs before, and hey, we don't want so many dispensaries. We're going to put a moratorium. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. No one's like mafia style extorted the businesses to close. That's crazy. You got 30 days, like, come into your shop and bust it up and say you got 30 days. That's some Tony Soprano stuff, man.
It's pretty wild, man. So Oklahoma, I hope you guys are pissed if you guys are hearing this. And look, this is going to air after we have our meeting tomorrow night, but you can still follow along. And look, I don't like politics. I'm just doing, and I don't even have any skin in the game. I don't have a fucking license. You know what I mean? I grow at home. I have my little home grow.
Right.
And I'm cool with that. You know
you got
what I mean?
your businesses.
I got enough weed to support me and my family's fucking smoking habit.
But I see what you're saying, man. Someone's got to step up and do something. And at least we have, like you said, at least you're putting on these meetings. We do have a space, the Bokashi Earthworks HQ. Everybody should follow rust.brandon on Instagram, especially if you're in Oklahoma. But go ahead and give that account a follow either way. I just wanted to open the show with that little PSA, man. It's absolutely baffling what's going on in Oklahoma. Someone's got to step up. Someone's got to countersue. They're so tied down in red tape and bureaucracy. The last thing they want is a lawsuit. They're going to keep pushing and pushing and pushing until they get one. And like I said, I do believe they are ruthless. I don't think they'll stop until they hit an opposing force. So, good on you for doing anything, man. Even if you're just getting people together, getting people fired up. Like you said, hopefully some lawyers will step up and and contact someone like you and say, how can we move this forward? Maybe a class action lawsuit. Like you said, there's never been a more appropriate time for a class action cannabis cultivation lawsuit. In my opinion, I've never seen a more appropriate time than right now.
Yeah, I think that something needs to happen. I think the Bureau of Narcotics doesn't even need to be handling this. They're under the assumption that these things are narcotics. It's like, dude, give it a fucking rest already, dude. For fucking tens of thousands of fucking years, okay? It grows out of the fucking ground. Like, stop it. Just stop the shit for me. Like, come on.
It's true, dude.
Enough is enough.
Enough
Can
is
we
enough.
fucking grow up? Can we be adults finally?
I like your attitude, man, and basically your kind of personal responsibility, self-sustainability approach. It goes right along with your work in regenerative agriculture and everything like that. So we've got to protect these businesses and maybe more importantly, protect our right to grow at home. And like you said, maintain that this is a plant, stop treating it like a goddamn pharmaceutical.
Yeah, they shut down all these mom and pop shops, and then the only people that are operating are fucking MSOs and big money business. And then they get together like, oh, we're not making enough money because they're growing weed at home. And then they fucking come after all the fucking home growers. That's right. And our community has already shrunk because all the mom and pop businesses are gone out of the business. And then the community shrinks, and then it gets harder to fight.
It is a slippery slope, and we need to create as many home growers now as we can. I suspect we have about 8 years to create as many home growers as we can. That's my super uneducated estimate. Well, listen, man, keep fighting the good fight. I'm going to be back there in Oklahoma to visit as soon as I get back to the mainland, as soon as the Cultivators Cup is over. I'm going to pop down there, see all my good friends. Hopefully we can stop and smoke a joint together, Brandon. That would be awesome. But talk to me about some happier stuff. Let's move on to our second subject here. Breeding. You're working on breeding right now.
Always doing something with the limarilla. So that's something that's been in my stable for a really long time. Very terpy strain. It's got notes of sour and soapy perfume chem.
Wow.
And lime peel, and it's great.
Where are you at with this line? Are you putting it into further filial generations? Are you crossing it with things? What does that look like?
Well, so I took the original cut that was used for the S1. The very first time it was a thing, it was a S1. It was a Herm Gorilla Glue on Black Lime Reserve. I took those seeds. It was a project that an old man it was his first grow, and the guy that was showing him how to do it like bailed out, and halfway through, and I went and got him I was like, look, dude, these things are Herman, but let's get you fixed up. You're going to have seeds in your weed, but used to smoking Mexican weed anyway. So
no big deal.
You'll have good weed. We'll finish this. I'll help you finish this run out and get you set up proper next time. This was back in 2000 and I think 15 or so. So, that's what happened. He harvested. The weed was great. I took a bunch of it, pulled out the seeds, and I was already cultivating at the time because, I've been cultivating for forever. And I was doing a bunch of pheno hunts anyway. And I was like, I'm going to pop these seeds. And I started hunting through that shit. And I started finding all kinds of rad stuff. And then I ended up S2ing it. I found a cut that I really liked out of there that I've been using for breeding. And then I've used the F2 and the F1s in different breeding projects. But that was always a S, like an S version. It was a reversal. So in 2000 and I think 19, Jackson, Mean Gene from Mendocino from Freeborn Selections.
Oh, nice, yeah.
Who played part in the Black Lime Special Reserve. He gave me a bunch of BLR seeds. He gave me a bunch of Black Lime seeds, like 70 of them, of the original F1s that he had. And I hunted through those in 2021. And I F2'd it. I found the best female out of the bunch, even though the female that I found wasn't something that I would ever keep in production or think was like anything of a special plant. I just didn't find a really great female out of that line. But I did find a spectacular male. And that's what I used that BLR to cross back onto the original Gorilla Glue that I've been holding on since 2013, since I got it, which was also what was originally in the old man garden.
So you took that Black Lime Reserve and brought it back in.
Yeah, so I took that male that I hunted out that I've been using on a lot of other projects because I have like the White Truffle times Black Lime Reserve, Bicket OG Black Lime Reserve. I have an unreleased Platinum Gucci times Black Lime Reserve. I did all the Starfighter times Black Lime Reserve. I did the Gas V2 F2 times Black Lime Reserve. We did the Purple Punch times Black Lime Reserve. There was the Blueberry Mac Muffin times Black Lime Reserve. There was just a shitload by Black Lime Reserve. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to do an F1. I'm going to go back to the very beginning and do Limerilla all over. Start with the Gorilla Glue, but use this male selection of the Black Lime Reserve to do a reg version, a reg line of it, so I can really work that line.
Nice, man. That's fantastic. What was your favorite cross of those, though? Like, that White Truffle sounds amazing times Black Lime Reserve. What was your favorite personal cross that you've made off of that BLR?
Probably the Black Light.
Oh, the lime. Is that the Limelight cross to Black Lime Reserve?
Yes.
You like lime, don't you, Brandon?
So that one is Lima cross to Mac V2, cross to Black Lime Reserve.
Got it. So bring some of that Mac in there. Yeah, we had a Limelight that was absolutely beautiful floating around the GrowCast community in Oklahoma. Gorgeous, gorgeous plant, man. Really, really beautiful grower, beautiful structure. What is that? What does that Black Light taste like and smell like? What was the profile?
It's got that soapy chem. It's got that soapy chem with like the heavy lime peel in it. It takes the Limerilla takes on a big thing, but you get a lot of, if you get a Mac leaning pheno, you'll get like more of like aniseed, some citrus on the lime peel.
Nice. Sorry, I was taking a little dab of my seahorse there. Yeah, man, that sounds incredible. The lime work. Are you like a big lime fan in real life? Why lime, I guess? Is it more about the effects? Do you love that flavor? Why lime?
Well, if you actually were to come and like smell these things while they're growing and stuff like that, it's not really like lime like you think it is. It's got that lime peel musk, but it's more like an earthy sour.
So it's more complex than just lime.
Yeah, it's really the chem that's coming out, bro. Like my breeder cut, when you smell it, dude, it smells like, it doesn't smell like jack, right? It doesn't have pine sol terps like that. This has a very fragrant, sweet, funky perfume, but it smells like it's soap. Like, oh, that's a cleaner. Like, that's soap. Like, if you were to smell it and you weren't looking at it, you would be like, oh, that's fucking soap.
Wow.
But it's not. So it's got this pungent soap thing going on, but it's chemi, dude. It's super chemi. Like, if you know like what chem is, dude, it's just got that fucking chem in it, you know, or it's just where the chem basically like enhances all the other notes. You know what I mean? Where like instead of smelling like, if you had a blueberry chem, right? Instead of just smelling like, oh, it smells like a fruity blueberry, it's like, bam, the chem in it will kick it up a notch and it'll put some fucking stank on it, right?
Yeah, that sounds amazing, man.
It's just, that's how they all are. They just have that nasty, fucking acrid, pungent,
noxious, toxic type smell.
But check this out. So I was hunting through, because I'm also doing, so that's a project that I have right now. I already finished that Limerilla project, right? And I still haven't pulled all the seeds out of the weed yet. Like, I haven't separated everything, but I have pulled enough seeds to start testing the variety. So I'm going to be testing that F1 Limerilla, probably going to flower in a couple weeks, maybe a week and a half.
Perfect.
And then I'm also working on the Blueberry Trade Mac to do F3 generation. And I have a potential candidate, but I found something in there while I was hunting that I didn't expect. And it's unlike the bud looks like Mac V2. However, it smells like Roadkill Skunk though, dude.
Whoa.
It legitimately, it's that super acrid, pungent. It's not pine. It's not lemon. It's not citrus. It's distinctly like that perfumey skunk. And what's really weird is whenever I pull like a fan leaf off of the plant, the fucking sap, dude, and even just the touch of the plant, it has that really acrid smell to it.
Whoa, that's wild. Usually sap is like sweet.
No, and it's so I'm interested in this because as it's growing, I get the train wreck, right? I get the train wreck, but there's this thing in there too that is distinctly like where mine would go if I was thinking about what weed smelled like if I had never smelled weed.
Jeez, man, that's quite a review there. You found the Roadkill Skunk in your blueberry train max. So this was a unique pheno. You were just popping a bunch of seeds, and this one smells totally different than any other thing you've seen come out of that line. Is that fair to say?
I was doing smell tests at like day 30 and I was killed off most of the clones. I was like, yeah, not this one. I don't like this one. Don't like this one. It's just, and then I had one of them in there that was just shiny, bro. It was shiny. It looked like it was snow and it had all the crinkle leaf. It was so crinkle leaf because of the trichome coverage.
Yeah.
And I'm okay, this one's got that sweetness to it. It's got the train wreck, but it's not distinctly blueberry. We'll see how it develops. So I kept that one, and I also kept that 11, 12, and 11, 11 and 12. 12 is the skunky one.
Whoa.
I'm gonna harvest, that plant maybe in 30 days or so. After I've done cured it and everything, I will be able to judge whether it kept whatever that is that I'm smelling. If it is, I probably hit the goddamn jackpot. But if not, if it doesn't cure out like that, then it's just whatever. Maybe I could find one that does because I still got more seeds.
Yeah, or maybe work it. Man, that's really cool though. That's why you got to do the pheno hunt. That's why you got to do the pheno hunt. Now, your blends, you've got a lot of different strains that I would consider some old school stuff in there. For me, Trainwreck is an old school strain. I'm sure there's some old heads who would disagree with that listening to the show right now. But for me, Trainwreck is like an old school classic strain. I know you've worked with like Afghan work in the past and even like the Black Lime Reserve and the lineage there. I want to get your opinion of this brand, and you've been smoking and enjoying as a connoisseur for a long time. What do you think of this idea that modern strains, the ones that are the hype ones now that are being passed around, not that they're inherently worse than old strains, but there's something that's different and maybe something that the old heads find is missing from these new school strains that the old school ones seemed to have? Do you agree with that sentiment, or do you think that's just nostalgia?
Yeah, the high's watered down.
The effect is what you're saying.
Here's the thing, right? I was thinking about when I first started smoking weed, and I was smoking swag. No doubt about it. I knew I was fucking. I knew I was smoking swag because I knew that fucking chronic existed, and I wasn't fucking getting it. But all that swag, all that Mexican brick weed that used to cross from the border down in San Diego and shit, well, that's not a thing anymore. And now the new swag is a prettier version, essentially. You know
with
what
less
I mean?
seeds, sometimes with less seeds.
So it's like we still got lots of fucking swag. It's just changed and it's evolved, right? Now it's got a prettier face on it. And that's all it is. It's a fucking pretty face. It's empty. Here's the thing. Everybody is wanting like candy gas, runts, gelatos, but like when you smoke things that are not those, I'm getting a way different effect. I smoke sour cheeseberry and I'm fucking like I'm stoned, like stone. And not just high for like 30 minutes, but I'm like, damn, dude, this is some good ass fucking weed because like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing right now.
Stoned to the bone, essentially.
Yeah, you smoke that Afghani boar rider and it's like, okay, well, it's time to go to fucking sleep.
Yeah, dude, that's what's up. That's my type of weed right there, Brandon. Make my eyelids heavy.
Yeah, I've got different weed that has no cookies in it, right? Gorilla Glue, right? Gorilla Glue hit the scene and it was a competitor amongst everything. You know what I mean? It went up against Kushes, the OGs, the fucking Sunset Sherbs, all of that shit. And it was fucking taking cups left and right. You know what I mean? And that's all fucking chems and a fucking tie.
Yep. That's right, man. And what do you attribute that to? Do you think people have been selecting with their eyes? Do you think that cookies has really? I asked on my member live stream for the GrowCast members what the worst strain in the world was. And by the way, let me be clear: this is all opinion. It was like a joke, right? Like, what's the worst strain in the world? A lot of people said Girl Scout cookies, man. Like a shocking amount of people in chat said Girl Scout cookies is the worst strain in the world.
Girl Scout cookies was actually really great.
That's what I think.
We ran forum cut. We ran that forum cut, but look at Girl Scout cookie was like considered like an exotic, right? It wasn't. It was super fucking pretty. It was like real hyped up. People like the way it tastes and shit.
It was finicky.
But again, it wasn't a huge yielder. It was like, it wasn't a fucking grower's like wet dream. You know what I mean?
True.
It was. So the growers that got it, they used it in more breeding than anything because they were like, oh, I want to pass on these really beautiful colors and these characteristics, but I want to add something to it. You know what I mean? But it sold. It had good sell through. We ran that shit for, a couple of years and it just started to transform. It was like cookies, cookies, cookies. And everything is more visual, which I get, dude. Everybody wants to see beautiful fucking weed, but like sour cheeseberry, sour diesel UK cheese, trainwreck blueberry, all old school shit. Looks fantastic. It's got great color. It tests between 24 and 29% THC, between 3.5 and 4.5 terps.
Yeah.
It's a competitor and it's got none of that stuff in there. It's just, I think that the market and the appeal that came with the marketing for those types of varieties, people ride that, and it's like, I don't even know if my shit really has any cookies in it. Right. This white truffle, I don't know.
That's a good point. I think that did influence a lot of the gene pool. And like you said, the Instagram selections, right? Stuff that's really, really pretty above all else. I don't know. I just see, like you mentioned Mean Gene, right? Like this seems like a guy who, I don't want to speak for anybody, but it seems like a guy who might put something like effect and like nuance above visuals, whereas other breeders would not be doing that. So
everybody's trying to have something that runs on all of those things,
True. Check all the boxes.
They want to check all the boxes. But the thing is, it's like, I'm fucking running through all kinds of shit all the time. And I'm like, yeah, this is good, but I'm going to probably have to grow fucking more of these to get the right one.
Right? No, that's true. Finding one that checks all the boxes is extremely rare. There's always one thing missing, man. Like, you'll get so excited because it looks so good and it's reeking on the plant and it reeks, and then you smoke it and the flavor just isn't there. And you're like, God damn it. You know what I mean? It seems like there's always one box that's left unchecked. Very rarely do I see all the boxes ticked.
I'm working on that blueberry train mac line, and my favorite smoke of all time is that Trainwreck blueberry that my OG homie of mine made. And he just told me he has original seeds of that. So I'm going to try to see if I can get the original seeds.
Damn. You like that Trainwreck. What about it? What about that strain? Why do you like it the best?
It's the blueberry Trainwreck combination, because the cut that he selected that we grew out for years, it was, have you ever had blueberry lemon pie?
I don't think so.
Have you ever had the flavor combination of blueberry and lemon?
Oh, yeah.
So they pair really, really well. And
yes.
So not only the terpene profile, but the palatability, it just tastes great. And the high is fucking fantastic because that Trainwreck's got that haze in it, bro. And it's super a mentally stimulating high, but it's also beautiful. It is a fucking great variety, man. And we lost that, but Marcus had also crossed MK. He found a really nice MK Ultra male, and he crossed that into everything he had at the time. And he gave me a bunch of those seeds too. So I have Skunk 1 MK Ultra. No, it's Blueberry Skunk 1 MK Ultra. I've got PK MK Ultras going. I've got a bunch of Blueberry Romulan MK Ultra. Great. I've got a bunch of crosses that I'm going to pop during this year.
Man, that MK Ultra, that one was just a blast from the past, you just said. That's one that's hugely underrepresented modern
I
in
think
modern
that's where the
crosses.
skunk is coming from, honestly. I think that's where this thing is coming, because I've seen it pop up. I've seen it pop up before, right? And I've seen it like, whoa, oh, it's like kind of rare in the line, but I keep seeing it pop up. And I've seen it pop up in the other MK Ultra crosses from previous pheno hunts.
Wow.
But I found one right now that's like, oh shit, this is it. I want to, so it's in there. I'm just going to try to find that. And it might have something to do with because the MK Ultra is OG and G13.
Oh, that makes perfect sense. That no wonder I like it so much. Man, that was good weed back in Humboldt in the 20 teens.
Yeah. Older genetics in there. We'll see. We'll see how everything plays out, man.
Yeah. GrowCast membership. Come join the greatest community in cannabis cultivation. GrowCast membership is a grower's best friend. With a membership, you'll never have to panic about a garden problem again as you immerse yourself in the most positive community in cannabis cultivation. No more unhelpful, hostile grower forums. You found your new home at GrowCast membership. When you become an exclusive member of GrowCast, you enter a thriving and positive community of cannabis growers whose mission is to uplift one another and bond over this amazing plant. Are you tired of getting bad advice online and people trolling you and jumping down your throat just because you have a different grow style? That's the one thing that we don't tolerate in membership. We are here to lift each other up, to help each other succeed in our gardens, whatever that means to us. And you will find so many new friends that you can nerd out about growing with 24/7. You can even meet Gromies in your area by joining a regional chapter of membership, trade rare seeds and stunning cuts with other members in the trading bazaar, and get exclusive discounts on events like Cultivators Cups, classes, and so much more. It's all waiting for you at growcastpodcast.com/membership. It'll bring you right there, and you get so many benefits. Not just the community itself, but you'll also get hundreds of hours of bonus content. If you love GrowCast, you'll love GrowCast TV. It's the greatest show in cannabis, if I do say so myself. We've got Q&A streams, members-only videos, resources, and a ton of member-only discounts that'll save you big bucks. You'll earn your membership fee back with the savings and then some. $20 off GrowCast seed co-packs and discounts bigger than anywhere else you can find on products like sex testing, microbial inputs, and so much more. It's all waiting for you at growcastpodcast.com. Come and join us. Come check out all the content. Enjoy the community. Meet growers in your area. And join us on our mission of overgrow as we overgrow the nation and the world. Growing should be fun and easy, and it should connect you more deeply with the plant and the people around you. So come join GrowCast membership. It's just $15 a month. You will not regret it. growcastpodcast.com/membership. I'll see you there, everybody. What do you feel like is a strain that's underrepresented that you would like to see more of? For me, MK Ultra is a perfect example of that. You don't see it anymore. It was an amazing classic. AK-47, something you don't see anymore. Headband, I feel like, is underrepresented. Do you have one of your own, or do you agree with one of those that like you wish you'd see more of now that's gone?
I'd like to see the PK that I used to run. I'd love to get a cut of that back. You know what I'd like to see? Which I don't see very often, is why isn't anybody running like Jack?
That is true.
It's such a good profile, and a lot of people hate on Jack Terp, but it's like they're like, oh, it's too generic, or it's like, oh man, it's fucking awesome because it's pungent, it's loud, like people like that,
I feel like Jack was widely represented and then just kind of stopped. Like you said, I feel like no one's working it right now in particular. I'm sure someone is out there, but like, yeah, there's a lot of good crosses. Jack the Ripper, Cracker Jack, all these different crosses. And then now I feel like no one's working it.
The J1 was really fucking good.
J1, I'm not familiar with that one.
That was the Jack Skunk 1.
Oh, nice. That's some old school stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great, man.
But I actually need to get a kind of, not a contract, but proposal together, because I had Mama Wolf, who is Yellow Wolf's. I don't know if you're familiar with who that is, but he's a rapper.
Yeah, absolutely. You're going to do a collaboration with him, right? Like a cannabis collab? Or are you rapping? Hopefully both.
Yeah, so I spoke to his attorney just 2 days ago, the initial first call. And he's an old head. He's an old deadhead, which was great because he's in his 70s, but he's been in the music business his whole life. And he ended up. It's funny because Mama Wolf, who that's the brand. It's called Mama Wolf. It's Yellow Wolf's mom's. Like she's putting the whole thing together, right? And she reached out. So what the idea is going to be like this: I'm going to create the genetics for the Mama Wolf's American Kush or whatever it's called, Mama Wolf's Kush brand, and so we'll have a couple of varieties that I've essentially bred. And so she's looking for something that's like grape flavored, and then we'll look at other options as well. And essentially, what it will be is it'll be a co-branding, marketing, distribution play, kind of. So, like I work with farms already all over the whole U.S., right? And so, if there's a farm, let's say I'm working with a farm in Michigan, and they want to hop on board to where they're going to have basically a marketing machine pushing their product, so that way they can essentially have product pre-sold, or not pre-sold, I would say, but like the way that it would work was they'd be growing out the variety, and then it would be a branding and marketing where we're like pushing the brand Mama Wolf's Kush with whatever Red Dirt Raised Farm or whatever, and it's a co-branding to help drive sales into distribution, and then the marketing company would essentially get paid for X amount on every pound that's sold. And you could check on that through like metrics and shit like that.
Well, that's a big deal, man. That's really cool that you're doing a collab like that, break it into the mainstream.
Well, see, I think what it'll allow to do is I can work with independent owner operators that don't necessarily have big marketing budgets, big marketing machines, or have large distribution companies that they can work with. But if you have a company or someone who has millions of followers that are able to push the product and say, hey, look, this is a really high quality product, it's an organic product grown at an organic farm in Oklahoma or Michigan or New Jersey or Hawaii, wherever it's at, it can help increase the visibility of that farm and help drive their sales. And it's basically, instead of like the marketing company having to have an actual license, they just take a very small percentage of the sales on that particular variety, for helping push the brand. Yeah.
So it's going to be like a multi-state, but collaborating with small farmers, medium farmers, farmers of all sizes, and then putting that different brand on the bag depending on where it is. Makes sense. That makes a lot of sense, man. Are we going to see you on his next album? Is my question. That would be impressive.
That would be impressive. We'll try to work it
out. Well, I love it, man. I absolutely love it. I follow Bokashi Earthworks, of course. You can go to bokashiearthworks.com, see everything Brandon is up to. Code GrowCast works, by the way, on Bokashi Earthworks, 10% off. And, of course, members getting an even deeper discount. GrowCast members at growcastpodcast.com/membership. We have been using your products, Brandon, and they work well. Let me tell you, I have found that putting a beginner into an earth box is a really, really easy way to help them succeed and have a successful first harvest. And then if they want to branch out from there and do something else, right, get into a bed or do some sort of deep water culture or something like that, that's great. But yeah, I want to give them something really, really easy their first time so they get a successful harvest and they don't have a failed first run and then never grow again, right? That's mission failed for Jordan River. So these earth boxes work great. And I went ahead and put, well, first of all, thank you. I put your soil in that earth box, and then I started putting your liquid products on that earth box, and holy crow, man, that thing is, first of all, it takes care of itself. The growth rates are explosive, and the nutrient balance looks perfect. Not only is it like green and praying, I don't see like the tiniest purple streaks. I don't see the tiniest nitrogen claw from toxicity. Really, really good stuff, man. I don't want to blow too much smoke, but it was very impressive to see your soil running in an earth box with your nutrients. Great shit.
Yeah, dude, the Humates are incredible, man. I mean, the more that I work with them and do different trials and different medias, the more I'm actually impressed. And I already know what to expect, but it's really impressive because they have greater efficiency than than synthetic nutrients. They work better than salts, and that's why you're not feeding them all the time. Is they're so efficient. Like for me, I will have done a total of 3 feedings with the Humate in flower. I did one right when I transplanted of the complex. I did another one at week 4 of flower. No, I did another one at week 3 of flower, and then I just did like half strength one a couple of days ago at week 5.
Week 5. So that's like right at transplant, and then kind of when the buds are finished setting, and then midway through bulk, you just hit them with a little extra juice, and that was it for the whole flower run?
Yeah, because my soil's really sufficient. You know, as long as you're giving them adequate calcium levels, that's one of the big things too, you know, having that calcium all the way through flower, it helps everything, dude.
Yeah, that's what I'm hearing.
Have you used any of the calcium silica?
I use the CalSil in my outdoor garden, my outdoor veggie garden, and huge turnaround on the heat resistance that I was dealing with, like massive temperatures, and that CalSil really seemed to help. Yeah. But yeah, you're right. It seems like calcium gets chewed through in the soil, and not even so much that like people show a bad calcium deficiency in their plant, but when they do add more calcium, they see these huge benefits. Can you speak to that?
Yeah. So calcium, from what I'm seeing on numbers, on data, it's about 2-to-1 nitrogen ratio. So a lot of times people think nitrogen is the most used thing for a plant, and it's actually about 100% more nitrogen is used. So if you were running 100 ppm of nitrate in your soil solution, you would want to be running around 200 ppm of calcium in your solution. Yeah, it's a macronutrient for cannabis for sure, even though it's considered a secondary nutrient, and you need it all the way through. You're gonna have a greater benefit if you just keep pumping them with that calcium. And dude, it's crazy because I was originally using the calcium silica just to adjust pH, but I started hitting it frequently throughout instead of just doing it all at once in the beginning, which I do. I reset if I need to adjust pH. I use it to adjust pH, but I also hit it throughout, and it's just night and day difference, dude. That calcium silica is awesome. And we go through a shitload of it. People love this stuff, man.
Well, we need our calcium that's not attached to something like nitrogen. Like you said, how are we going to achieve those nitrogen ratios if we're using calcium nitrate? We're constantly bringing that nitrogen up with it, which is not a good thing, for instance, in flower, like you said. So CalSil, even people use calcium sulfate. People seem to be getting wise to this and putting a lot of calcium in their soil during flower, especially.
Yeah. You need that calcium and you need that phosphorus.
So your Humate products, I want to talk for just a second about the carbon in them. We hear this term thrown around all the time. Carbon-based nutrients is loaded with carbon, humics, fulvics, carbon.
Yep.
I'm wondering how these products are different from one another, how products like humic acids compared to your Humate fertilizers may differ from each other, because I hear they come from different sources, and some come from seabeds and lake beds, some others come from leonardite. Some have like natural nitrogen in them. Others are like processed where the nitrogen falls out, so there shouldn't be any nitrogen. Can you just talk about humics and humic products on the shelves and what the differences are?
Yeah, so a lot, not all, but a lot of the products that are powdered or granulated and marketed as humic and or fulvic acid are usually derived from leonardite. It'll say that on the thing. What leonardite is, it's oxidized lignite coal, which is what we also make the Humate fertilizer out of. However, when you go to, first of all, there's lignite, there's billions and billions of tons of this stuff all over the US. It's literally fucking everywhere. It's abundant in the US. There's so goddamn much of it. It's retarded. I love it. So you can go to New Mexico, a corner of New Mexico is where most of the stuff is being pulled from. And because it's just sitting right on the surface, it's just oxidized lignite. So it's got high oxygen, carbon, hydrogen content. Now, what this material is organic mineralized rock. So essentially canopies of herbaceous plants broke down. They had, time in the ground to mineralize and essentially petrify. And so stored within this material is oftentimes mineral nutrients. Now they're totally unavailable. Like you cannot access them. Even if you crushed it up, it would take, decades. Yeah, it would take years, right?
Mm-hmm.
For the nutrient ions to be liberated. I mean, you could micronize them down to like 200 mesh to where it's like soluble, where you're saying it's soluble, but you're still not extracting it. And what happens is this organic mineral has a lot of different stuff in it. Okay. It does have carboxylic acid groupings, which are the basis for humic and fulvic acids.
Right.
But it's also got esters, esters. It's got hydroxyl groups. It's got methyl groups. It's got sulfides. It's got all these different chemical compounds, and it's got things like calcium, magnesium, iron, zinc, phosphorus,
minerals.
It's got all the stuff that plants have, but it's all trapped into these like mineral lattices. Now, a lot of companies, what they'll do is they'll take these giant rock lignites and they'll crush them up, and then they'll put it in a package and they'll say, hey, this is, humic and fulvic acids. And while that material may contain humic and fulvic acids, it's not going to do what they would advertise. So fulvic acid, as advertised, what it does is it acts as a fuel source for microbes. So it acts as energy for microbes. It also acts to carbon chelate different elements where it can hold on to those nutrient ions in a bioavailable form for the plant, and it decreases precipitation reactions between ions or salts. Like if you had phosphorus and calcium in solution, they could potentially bond together at a high pH, but if the calcium is attached to fulvic acid, it's going to stop that precipitation reaction from occurring. And so fulvic acid has all of these benefits. Humic acid, on the other hand, is a larger molecule. Oh yeah, fulvic acid, let me step back. Fulvic acid also neutralizes the charges of ions and allows for passive diffusion across the cellular membranes of plants. So what essentially will happen is you can think of a plant in the sap in a plant like a battery, where it's taking up positive cations like potassium, calcium, magnesium, ammonium, zinc, iron, manganese, copper. All those things have a positive charge, right? And what happens is you can't indefinitely charge a battery, right? If you kept trying to pump charge into a battery, eventually that battery is going to explode.
Right.
So what the plant naturally does is it pumps out these protons, these hydrogen ions, to basically level out that charge. And then also one of the things that can happen is whenever the plant is taking up a negatively charged ion like phosphate, sulfate, nitrate, silica, and to a lesser degree molybdenum and boron, it balances that internal charge, right? Because it's essentially taking away some of that charge. But those charge mechanics function a little bit differently when they're being passively transported through the use of fulvic acid chelation.
Less work the plant has to do. Is that a layman's way to put it?
Exactly, because the plant has to expend energy to either move something along a higher concentration gradient. So if there is more of positive charge in the plant itself, and to take in more charge, it's going to have to expend energy, right? It has to release energy in some form to be able to get that in, right? So the plant does that through several different mechanisms, It dumps protons. Sometimes it'll dump different types of ions, sodium, potassium, hydrogen. It dumps ionophores. It dumps carbon compounds to help with passive transport. It does all these different fucking crazy ass shits.
But the humic acids takes care of that, which points to that relationship between these compounds and plants, right? I mean, these are relationships that have been around for hundreds of millions of years. These types of acids.
Yeah, they've co-evolved together. When we're talking about organic matter, we're talking about carbon. We're talking about things that are carbon-based, and these carbon-based chemicals facilitate all of these different nutrient uptakes and all these other different processes. So humic acid, on the other hand, it's better. It's a larger size molecule. It doesn't act as a food source for microbes, but it can house them. It's a larger substrate. It can also help with water retention, which also will help with soil structure. It's a larger molecule. So again, soil structure, water retention, housing of microbes.
Tons of benefits.
And it can also help increase EC of the soil. But they function differently, and to really get the actual benefit of real humic and fulvic acid, they actually have to be extracted out of that lignite. And to do that, what has to be done is you have to micronize it down to 200 mesh, which is enough to cover a square mile, a surface of a square mile in atoms. It's a very, very fine mesh. And then what happens is it's reacted. And in this case, what we'll do is we use potassium hydroxide, because that's going to increase the pH and solubilize all of those things. All that micronized stuff is it has all that surface area for the reactivity for that alkaline solution to basically do work. It'll do work and it'll dissolve all of those things. So all the ions that are trapped in these mineral matrices, they all get released, right? And then what happens is you ended up with a fractionated product where you have what's called humane, which is all the junk esters, esters, sulfides, all these other sulfur compounds. They all drop out of solution because they're not soluble at these really high pHs.
Whoa.
However, humic and fulvic acid are soluble at those high pHs. And then also the potassium from the potassium hydroxide, because again, this is a pure potassium solution. It's very caustic because it's incredibly alkaline. Now, that ends up becoming part of the fertilizer itself. It bonds with the fulvic acid groups during another part of this process. But what happens is we first make the solution alkaline, and then it goes to another process where we introduce phosphoric acid. And phosphoric acid has phosphorus molecules, but it's just phosphorus in its pure form, and it's acidic. And what that does is it drops the solution. So what ends up happening is the fulvic acid is soluble in both high and low pHs, but the humic acid is only soluble in alkaline solution. So when it starts to get acidic, it separates out from the fulvic acid. At this point, we have a separated solution of humic and fulvic acids that can then be catalyzed and reacted. That fulvic acid can be reacted with the humic and fulvic acid. And the fulvic acid in these containers, it causes an endothermic reaction that's encapsulated, and it charges up all of the electron groups that are associated with the carboxyl fulvic acid molecules. And it essentially attaches all of the cations that were in that solution, the potassium, the nitrogen that came from that solution, the phosphorus, the iron, the zinc, the manganese, the calcium, the magnesium, everything that was in that mineral, in that starting mineral, can be reconstituted back into the fertilizer to create completely carbon chelated molecules, right? So instead of being like a salt, because what happened is normally when you put all these ions together, like phosphorus and calcium, it would bind together to create calcium phosphate or ammonium or calcium nitrate, right? If you had nitrate and calcium, they would form, or if you had sulfate and calcium, they would form calcium sulfate, or any of these other things. They potentially precipitate into these other forms when you have these ions, but these ions are basically attached to fulvic acid groupings. So that's the difference between ours. Look, we're a synthetically created product, but we're completely organic in the fact that it is all carbon based. And here's the kicker though. We take less energy and less resource to manufacture our product than any other product on the market.
Right.
There's the reason why. Because that lignite source, that is what the fertilizer comes from. Instead of having to source different elements from different locations around the country, we're just pulling from the lignite. And the lignite is very, very inexpensive. It's all over the country.
And you're just using a reaction process. You're just using like an acid.
Yeah. And so it's a green factory. There's no off-gassing. There's no waste products. It's all green manufacturing with local. So here's the thing. A ton of urea is 4600. It only is 46% nitrogen. It's one element out of the 17 that the plants need. Now, it takes 35 million BTUs to manufacture 1 ton.
Jeez.
35 million BTUs. Think about that in terms of air conditioning units.
That's wild. Well, that's why you're providing a big benefit and market gap, dude, is to get us off of those inefficient fertilizers that aren't even good for the soil.
Yeah. So that's a mismanagement of energy resource right there, right?
Yeah.
Because you have to take hydrogen gas, you have to combine it with atmosphere under immense pressure. It takes a ton of energy. And then you have to transport that all over the world because it's cheaper to make it in places like Russia and China. Then that has to be transported overseas. If you're dependent on chemical fertilizers and you don't have the resource in the country, then it's even more expensive. And then that is eventually mixed with other fertilizers like EDTA, chelated chemicals, and all these other things to make these nutrient salts. So they're pulling from all these other different resources. And at the very end, that urea only has about a 10 to 15% use efficiency, where only about 10 to 15% of the actual nutrition is going to actually be observed by the plant, because so much of it is going to be converted back to atmospheric gas, the atmospheric nitrogen cycling process, and through biological nitrogen cycling in the soil. And because you're also going to lose some to probably runoff, because a lot of these products don't have good carbon content in the soil, right? So there's nothing for the nutrients to hold on to in the soil. So it's extremely
nitrogen just washes away.
Now, a ton of Humate fertilizer only takes 900,000 BTU, which is still a lot of energy. But if we're talking apples to apples, we're talking about a complete NPK, secondary and micronutrient fertilizer, complete with over 45% fulvic acid and 4% humic acid. Not just one element. We're addressing all of the elements: humic and fulvic acid, passive transport, saving metabolic energy, increasing nutrient use efficiency, and decreasing the cost for energy production and for resource allocation.
It's amazing, man. That's why I love following your work, right? Like, you're a great educator. I love having you on the show and stuff, but this is why people are hyped, because of those numbers that you just said and the implications. Let me tie this up though and see if I have this right, because I think I'm clearer on humic acid products than I ever have been. They all come from these sources that are like either lignite or seabed humates or whatever, and they're all locked in there. Let me put it this way. Humic acid products can be considered anything from the unfiltered, locked up rock source or granulated or whatever, like you said, all the way up to partially processed, separated from humics and fulvics, re-enriched with the minerals, or anything in between, right? Any of those things can be considered humic acid products. So they are not created equally in any way.
And like California, Washington, or in Oregon, you can't even say fulvic acid, which is really, there's a really distinct thing that needs to be defined, right? That fulvic acid and humic acid function chemically completely different.
Sure.
And they just say, you just have to say humic acid.
Because of the labeling thing.
You're including humic substances, you're including, so that's the thing too, is the labeling requirements for these things may be in accordance with California, and you're not getting the full depth of perception and understanding of what they're derived from, because it might be humic substance and not humic acid, which is just substances that could potentially contain those functional groups.
Right. So that answers a lot of questions. You just got to know how it's produced. Essentially, it does provide more questions, but you have to ask the manufacturer what this is essentially.
Look, I'm completely transparent on everything, how we manufacture these processes, how everything is done. The only thing that's protected, and there's only 4 of us that know what it is, which is the catalyst for reacting the fulvic acid to act as an electron acceptor.
And people have different,
not electron acceptor, an ion acceptor.
And that's what differs your process from other people. Other people have different extraction processes and different stuff like that, right? So they are completely different.
A lot of people won't tell you how it's being done, like this and that. And they'll just say, oh, it's proprietary, or, oh, it's plant-based, or, I'm completely open and transparent. And you know what's really cool too, bro? I'm running cocoa with this nutrients. I'm doing a 1 gallon. Yeah, bro. And it's going to be cool, because once I have this program dialed in, it's like we can go scale out facilities and not waste cocoa anymore. Where they set up their cocoa pots, bam, you want to do cocoa? Cool. Hell yeah, dude. Let's do some organic cocoa production. You know what I mean? Just like you run salts, but without all that fucking waste, man. I'm going to fucking change everything, dude. Everything's fucking changing, Jordan. And I'm going to push this shit so hard. I'm going to Chicago at the end of the month. I'm meeting up with investors because I can't scale this thing alone anymore. And we're building a factory for the Nutri-Grow pot. We're building a factory to manufacture Humate fertilizer, and I'm pushing this shit to the fucking max, bro.
I love it. Well, listen, here's the secret. You ready, guys? Here's the secret to success in life and in your career. You have to find a problem, create a solution for it that provides value to the world, makes the world a better place, makes people's lives easier, better, somehow more effective, makes someone laugh, makes someone smile, makes someone learn something. Brandon here is tackling a huge problem, which is the conventional, quote, conventional agricultural industry. And nobody is on board with how they do it right now, except for Big Ag themselves. And everybody wants to see a solution like this that's going to be earth friendly and leave the earth a better place for our kids so we don't screw it up and doom future generations. So you've really picked an amazing crusade here, man. We're here for it. We're watching. We're following along. Speaking of which, where can people find you, man? Throw out all your plugs, all the stuff.
Yes. Okay. So I'm on all of the social media channels, LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. Rust.Brandon is my IG. That's where my main account is. Also Bokashi Earthworks. You can go to bokashiearthworks.com, and we put educational blogs, in-depth educational blogs on there. So even if you're not buying product from us, you can still follow along and learn.
And remember, guys, bokashiearthworks.com, code GrowCast. Members get an even deeper discount. Great work, Brandon. We appreciate you, man. We'll be following along, the breeding, the products, all the good stuff. Anything else before we wrap it up?
Nope. I'll talk to you tomorrow.
That's right.
Talk to you soon.
I will talk to you tomorrow. Everybody, follow Rust.Brandon. Stay tuned on those meetings. Get out there. Voice your opinion. I'll be back in Oklahoma soon to see all the Oklahoma Gromies. That's it for now, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. It's Brandon Rust and Jordan River signing off, saying be safe out there and grow smarter. All right, that's our show. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you, dear members. GrowCastPodcast.com. Everything's up there. Join membership. I appreciate you members so much making this possible. It's the greatest membership in cannabis. I do hope you check that out. And of course, we got GrowCast Seed Co. up there. Grab yourself some seeds. We've got the feminized cookie truffle shuffle, which we're highlighting recently. My goodness, every single pheno that comes out of that cookie truffle shuffle is just amazing. Still some packs up there. Of course, members getting $20 off per pack. And Cultivator's Cup, that's right, April 13th in Rockford, Illinois. If you want more information on that, go ahead and email contact@growcastpodcast.com. Ask about the Cultivator's Cup. It's already halfway sold out, over halfway sold out, actually. So you're going to want to grab your tickets. If you're hearing this, if you're interested in driving out, or if you're a Midwest grower, come on down to Rockford, April 13th, 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. Email for details. We'll get you an invite. So excited for Cultivators Cup 2024. Shout out to Pukas, who won last year with his Ego Death by Terp Fiend. And of course, the inaugural champ Crazy Legs, who won with his Truffle Cake. So everybody, stay tuned. We got some great content coming your way. I appreciate you tuning into this show. It means a lot to me that you would listen to me while you do your gardening. Hope you do some amazing gardening and have a great harvest this one and beyond. We'll see you next time, everybody. Be safe. Bye-bye.
So fuckery is always afoot when it comes to government on any level.